I'll be presenting with you, or rather, I'll be discussing with you some of the teaching methodologies which I used over a period of time. I've been teaching for last 25 years, so I joined teaching in 1996. So I'll be telling you the kind of a story since then, what I have done. Some of these activities you might be already doing because you might be part of uh, PharmD College. But I'm part of government aided diploma in pharmacy college. I'm a full-time faculty there, and I'm a visiting lecturer with the degree college as well as PharmD college and examiner for all three. But my core activities in teaching are in diploma in pharmacy college. And as you know, diploma in pharmacy students go out in pharmacy practice. They become community pharmacists or hospital pharmacists. They go in marketing, and some of them, of course, pursue the degree program. So I'll be discussing with you my learnings from my teaching experience. As you know, I told you I entered in teaching around 1995. I had some temporary job, and then I joined in the government college in 1996. So I realized that the classroom lectures are like usual chalk and board, or that time the projector, the overhead projector and LCD projector were the new things, and we were using those projectors as audio visual medium. That time social media, internet, of course, was not there common. So large amount of info in short period of time. That is the best feature of the traditional teaching. You go into the class, 50 minutes lectures, 1 hour lecture, you can give out so much of information to the students and carry forward your and to finish your portion. So that is very good way. I mean, that is very good advantage of traditional teaching. It is very, very useful to cover our huge syllabus. Usually in India, we have very huge, very descriptive syllabus, unlike the other countries. And so we need time to teach that. And so traditional way of teaching, conventional way of teaching is very good for that. But even though I was a very new teacher, I started realizing that students seem to be very passive listeners. I mean, they might be they might be physically present. See, we take attendance at the end or in the beginning of the lecture. So physically they are present, attendance is taken, but are they present mentally? I realize some of the students are mentally absent, they're just physically present. Their mind is wandering somewhere, they're not interested. Some are very studious, they're taking keen interest, they're asking questions, but some are not. So it is not the case with everyone. For some, it is very, very boring, and their attention span is also very less for the students. And our overall examination, I mean, our education system is more exam oriented, and it has less relevance, practical relevance, and it seems to be more theoretical. Next slide, please. So in my early teaching years, like in first 5 years itself, I realized that, can we go to the next slide? I realized that there were some realizations, our education system is pretty exam oriented. It is not making our students think. There is no creativity in that. You learn, you mug it up, you go to the exam, you write it down, and maybe you forget. So though it is a professional course, students are, able to kind of vomit out in the examination and forget the things, which was really very undesirable for a professional course like healthcare course like pharmacy. So our exam oriented system, that is overall feature of the education system in our country. The syllabus of diploma in pharmacy as well as BPharm, pretty old. Not bad, syllabus was not bad, but it was getting old. There was, as I said, lack of practical relevance, and the delivery of the syllabus was not appropriate. So again, it was only preparing the student for the exam than for the profession. And so it was like it was lacking interesting and effective ways of teaching learning. That's what were my realization in my early days of teaching. Next slide. So I could never go into the comfort zone. Actually, the government college job, good salary, fifth pay scale, fourth pay scale, sixth pay scale, all vacations, holidays, no problem. But because of these realizations, I could never go in the comfort zone. I was not happy with what I'm doing. Just going to the classroom, teaching, taking practical attendance sheets, making lesson plans. That's it. No. So there was positive restlessness due to these realizations. So it was asking me to do something. So that was like a trigger. At the same time, I started attending FIP, International Pharmaceutical Federation congresses, and the academic pharmacy sessions or community pharmacy sessions were so impacting, were so effective, and it was really like game changer for my life. I was also reading articles in the pharma periodicals. Like I remember articles by Dr. B.G. Nagvi and from IPA Community Pharmacy Division. Like this, I'm talking about 2001, 2002, and they were talking about the role of pharmacists, how we should mold our budding pharmacist students for we should orient them. So it was very, very interesting, and I was thinking about it. Yes, we should be doing this something in our own teaching, in everyday teaching in our college. I didn't know that time that after a few years I'm going to head that same IPA Community Pharmacy Division. But that time it was very, very useful for me to start the thinking. And also attendance like such faculty development programs, seminars, World Health Organization's courses, like on rational drug use. I had attended, I remember, World Health Organization's course, 5 days, 1 week course at Jaipur. It was really eye-opener. So I appeal to you, if you get any chance to attend such courses, some of you might have already attended. If not, there are now virtual courses also. Please do attend that. And interaction with other educators. So this was firming up. I mean, this was helping me to develop my thoughts, what new things I want to do at my college level. Next slide, please. So I had learned from FIP congresses, from article reading, that there are active learning methods which involve like PBL, problem-based learning, case-based learning. See, 1999, 2000, 2001, these things were not much known to us. Now we know it much more because of PharmD program in our country. That time this was kind of new knowledge for everyone. Simulation techniques, service learning, innovations in classroom teaching. So these are some modern methods I got to know from the exposure that I got in the conferences, seminars, through readings, etc. Next one. Next slide, please. This pyramid, learning pyramid, I'm sure all of you know this learning pyramid. This had, got imbibed in my mind very well, that the students' average retention rate is only 5% listening to the traditional lectures. It increases slowly as their participation increases. If we use audio visuals, 20% retention is there. But whenever we are using their participation, maybe discussion, maybe practice by doing, then the retention levels are definitely significantly increasing. So this was like very much engraved in my mind, this learning pyramid. Next slide. I knew what active learning is, and I knew the features of active learning, that how it is developing the creative thinking in the students, analyzing, discussing problems, etc. So I knew this Bloom's taxonomy, etc. also. Next slide. But at the same time, I also came to know and realize what are the disadvantages of these type of active learning techniques if we keep using it all the time. Next slide. So for active learning, as all of you will agree, that the students are not well prepared because they have to participate, they have to contribute. Usually in the classroom, they are just sitting like this and we are talking. But for active learning techniques like problem-based learning, case studies, collaborative learning, they have to contribute. And so many a time students will be unprepared for this. They will prefer passive learning. Some students may not just participate, only some enthusiastic student may participate. And it is also for a teacher, it is quite time consuming thing. Teacher has to act as a facilitator than a normal traditional teacher. So teacher also has to prepare much better and also have to spend thinking what I should be presenting in the next lecture and how activities should be done, how activities should be evaluated. So all in all, it is more time consuming and difficult to complete the syllabus in a given time frame if we use a lot of active learning methods. In other countries, active learning is the way of teaching most of the syllabus, but they have lesser portion and it is more activity based, more addressing the attitudes and expectations of the students, which is not yet the case in our country. With the new education policy, things are changing. Next slide. So I realized, and it is like we cannot replace the conventional teaching methods totally, but we can supplement it with the modern learning techniques wherever possible. So like we can have traditional teaching, but along with that, we can use some of the modern teaching methods or whatever we can. Next slide. So whatever experiments I did, again, I want to say that some of these experiments are not new to you. You might be also doing it, but I started doing it around 2001, 2002. That time, at least, it was new for me and for many others. So major objectives of the teaching experiments for me were to increase the practical relevance, to create interest and motivate the students for self-directed learning. Make learning beyond the classroom walls. Classroom walls are not enough to educate our students, to prepare them for the profession. So make learning possible and make motivate our students for going beyond the classroom walls, because the task of the modern educators is not to cut down on the jungles, but to irrigate the deserts. That is very important. Next slide. And so teachers can actually act as agents of change, and they are not just teaching the subject like pharmaceutics, pharmacology, pharmacognosy. No, they're touching the lives of the students. They are able to transform the student totally. Teacher can act as an agent of change by improving the capability of the student, by giving the opportunities, and most important, by giving motivation to our students. They can bring the change in the behavior of the student who is going to be a competent pharmacist later on in life, and can contribute effectively to the healthcare of the country. So we teachers are actually in nation building, because we are creating those hands, pharmacists who are the pillars of the healthcare system in our country as well as globally. Next. So the experiments which I did so far, experiential learning was one of my objective. So pharmacy practice experiences like academia practice interface, I started in like 2004. Simulation, model pharmacy teaching, role play method, like since 2004. Some of the problem-based learning through projects and seminars. I can tell you that projects and seminars are never part of diploma curriculum. And so most of these things, what we were doing in our college, what we started in our college, was over and above the curriculum or over and above the syllabus. Syllabus is the minimum thing. We can always go over and above. Nobody will object for it. So it is sky's the limit there. Service learning models, different assignments, home medicine list, product handling. I'll tell you what it is. And most importantly, along with these new assignments, activities, role plays, etc., what I definitely started doing is sharing my learnings, sharing the resources which I get from every conference nationally and from international conferences. So in international conferences, there are big exhibitions. You try to pick up some samples, whatever it is. It might be the dose compliance aid, or it might be just some other small things, inhalers. So I used to bring that, and I used to keep it in the lab, relevant lab, and I show it to the students, and I share it, the knowledge gained, as well as whatever brochures, if I got everything, with the students. So I do it like very religiously since then. And so my students, every batch would know to which country I had gone or to which big national conference I had gone. What did I learn from there? What did I bring it back? The knowledge or the items or the resources for them. So this was done during the practicals, and everything is like over and above the curriculum. Next one. So the first activity, the major one that we call it as junior clerkships. Actually, junior clerkships are like, as you know, in pharmacy, there are rotations. So students go in different pharmacy setups and takes the training. In diploma in pharmacy, the training part is after 2 years of program. So after the college education is over, they go for training and then they get their certificate. So that is actually not very suitable, because when students are in the college, when they're learning theory, they should also have practical exposure. Then learning becomes very much interesting. So experience and exposure to the real life practice. This is conducted during the SYD farm in the first term or in Diwali vacation. And students are asked to spend a minimum 2 days in retail pharmacy and 2 days in hospital pharmacy, whether government hospital pharmacy or an elite private hospital, whatever. So networks are established to the alumni and through our social contacts with the nearby pharmacies, hospitals. Code of conduct and reference points are given to the student. What to do, what do's and don'ts, that is very important. And then students submit the report with the photographs. So we started this from like around 2003 or 2004 on a regular basis for every each year. Next one. So like all these reference points, this is a busy slide, you did not read it through, but these are like the guidelines given to the student, what they need to learn, because this is not a summer training. This is only an exposure program. Students have to go and silently observe what the pharmacist is doing, how the pharmacy is functioning. And this definitely generates so much of interest when they come back to college. They learn the subjects with a lot more interest. And this I tried in the D Pharm as well as in B Pharm. Next one. Next click. Yeah. So these are some of the photographs. The pharmacist is guiding the student and see the faces of the students, very happy, very interested. And when they come back to college, they have lots of questions and lots of stories to tell. And then they'll learn in the classroom with much more interest and enthusiasm. Next slide. Yes, so as I said, seminars and projects, though it is very common for B Pharm, I evaluate the seminars for the B Pharm as well as for Pharm D assignments and seminars I have evaluated. But for diploma in pharmacy, even today in ER 2020 also, we have not kept seminars and projects as such. So seminars and projects were kept as group activity, teacher advisor, usual method. Next slide, please. So from 2002, we are having these type of activities, and the diploma students also do a wonderful job doing the surveys, literature survey. Now internet has made things easy. That time they used to submit the handwritten seminars like this, but now, I mean, the reports like this, now it is much more sophisticated, and we take all different types of topics. Like you can see OTC medicines, role of pharmacists, what's new in the world of antibiotics, online pharmacies. So the topics which are relevant but not exactly part of our syllabus. Next one. So the project-based learning redefines the boundaries of the classroom, and no longer are the students confined to learning within the four walls. That's the best advantage. And we have to create interest in the student's mind. I'll tell you my experience when we started this projects and seminars for our students. Some always used to do it with interest. Some used to feel this is something over and above, unnecessarily added by us. But then they used to go into marketing, or they used to go in degree, just to come back and say, sorry, that time we did not take interest and we thought this is just a burden for us, but this has really helped us so much. So every activity that students do, it helps them in their personality and professional development. And they feel very much grateful to the college for carrying out such activities beyond the curriculum. Next one. So these are like, that time Gutka was very common, now it is much banned. So students do all types of field surveys. I mean, the students have fresh ideas, and students took a lot of interest in such activities. Next one. Now in 2002, we established model pharmacy in our college. Now in ER 2020 for D Pharm, model pharmacy has been prescribed by Pharmacy Council of India. But in 2002, on our own, we established a model pharmacy, which is not an actual drugstore. It is only to give the conceptual ideas to the students, how to follow good pharmacy practice, how to handle the patient, how to do patient counseling. So this pharmacy which you see, we established in 2002, and I think from 2003 or 4, I started carrying out regular practicals over here. What you see here are all empty cartons, empty strips, empty bottles, and nothing is actually real, but it is giving the look of the pharmacy. Next one. So in the role play method, I'm sure many of you are now familiar and you're using this method to teach. This is a simulation technique. And here in the pharmacy, we teach them good pharmacy practices, what is good dispensing practice, patient information, documentation, etc. And then students also bring photocopies of the prescriptions of their family members, neighbors. Patient's name is always masked. And then the student, first thing is a very exciting thing is reading the prescription, because reading the prescription is a challenge. Everyone knows. So reading doctor's handwriting, at that time all were like, most of them were handwritten prescriptions. Now we get computer generated prescriptions. E-prescriptions are also becoming the norm. So reading prescription, checking the prescription for its completeness, decoding the brand names, checking for any interactions and ADR with the help of National Formulary, British National Formulary, different websites, or SIMS, MIMS, Drug Today like books. So this used to be like 2 or 3 turns of practical in pharmacology. And then students actually used to perform the role play, one student becoming pharmacist, one student becoming patient and carrying that piece of prescription, and the pharmacist student counseling the patient. And this used to be so, I mean, this, why I'm saying used to be, because in the last 1 year due to COVID, we have not done it. But this is very exciting and interesting kind of practical. And whether it is there in our syllabus or not, we must carry it out, because that generates a lot of interest. Also, students get the feeling that they're the pharmacist and they're handling the patient, and they get that start developing that sense. So we must have model pharmacy in our college in whatever way we have, howsoever small or big, but that gives that real life situation simulation. So that is very important. And from 2003 or 4, when we started this, every year students document this prescription, counseling, instructions, everything in the pharmacology lab manual, and it carries marks. So like we have integrated it in kind of syllabus, though it is over and above the syllabus. So whatever new initiative started became a regular practice. It was not like started 1 year, left it out. No, it was integrated in the regular practice. That is very important, sustainability of the initiative. Next one. Next one. Now students use a lot of apps also, 1mg app, WebMed app to prepare the patient counseling tips. But that time we just had the books from WHO or from Facts and Comparison, US Pharmacopoeia, USHP, etc. So this is the pharmacy. So like this is picture from 2018. So we continue our work in the model pharmacy. And now with new syllabus, ER 2020 for DPharm, model pharmacy has become the requirement, and I'm glad we already have it and we are already using it. Next one. One more activity which we started and we still do it, that is case studies, basically on NCDs, non-communicable diseases and different infections, prescription collection or cases, that is from clinical pharmacy books or the real life cases. We discuss it, and then students again do the role play in the model pharmacy, handling the patient of an NCD or handling the patient where patient is going to buy antibiotics for the infection. So this is again documented in the pharmacology practicals. Next one. So this becomes these type of studies become extremely lively and students just love it. These type of training what the students get in the college on a regular basis, that helps the students to carry out many community outreach activities. So our students regularly carry out TB awareness campaign or medicine literacy program. So medicine literacy program, as in the introduction, it was told to you that I also lead it for Indian Pharmaceutical Association. Actually, that got generated in our college, for me at least. And so we started training the students for GPP, for the patient counseling, and also overall the medicine literacy. So how to use medicines, responsible use of medicines. And I can tell you, as an effect of this, as an outcome of this, students every year go to nearby schools, nearby tuitions or junior colleges or their own junior college or schools and carry out Aushadh Sakshartha or medicine literacy program. They also go to some other public forums, Rotary Club, etc. And then we have some posters made through IPA. So they show the poster, distribute it, and they talk about the medicines, how to store the medicines, how to take the medicines, why compliance is important, what precaution should be taken while buying the medicines. All basic things, nothing, no rocket science, but very important for uneducated or educated person. So far we have covered more than 10,000 people in our vicinity for this medicine literacy. Different health awareness exhibitions, and students are also asked to participate in the immunization campaigns like Pulse Polio campaign. Next one. Next one. Yeah, so these are some certain photographs of the health awareness exhibition. I think this is from 2009. Next one. Yes, so this is typical consumer medicine awareness campaign exhibition. On the table, different dosage forms are kept, different types of tablets, inhalers, eye drops, capsules, syrups, and then the trained students talk about how to take the syrup, how to use the measuring cup and cap, how the chewable tablet should be taken, how the dispersible tablet should be taken. All are basics, but then that community needs that information because community lacks the information and there is a lot of incorrect, irresponsible use of medicines in our society. So we sometimes collaborate with local FDA office or Rotary Club or Chemist Association. This is I think from 2006. Next one. Next slide, please. So again, yes, so these are the trained students and they are very confidently teaching the people who are approaching them, talking about the medicines, talking about the other health issues. So it is important to train the students that way, but we could do it because of the model pharmacy practicals and overall orientation that we have brought in our teaching. Next one. Next, please. Yes, this is I think 2015. We carry it out also in different parts of Mumbai as we get invitations. This was in one of the big college in Bandra, and people are visiting and students are talking to them. Whenever students have issues, teacher is always there and teacher will answer the queries. Some drug-related queries which are like going beyond the comprehension of the students. Students write it down. We have trained them to write down the query, take the phone number of the consumer, and then we call back the consumer. Along with this, we also carry out the blood glucose measurement and blood pressure measurement because blood pressure and blood glucose measurements attract the people towards such type of exhibition. Otherwise, they are not much concerned about the medicine usage, etc. But because of that, they come and then we can talk to people and educate, sensitize the people for the responsible use of medicine, which is the core activity of a pharmacist. Glucose measurement and blood pressure measurement, anyone else can also do. But the responsible use of medicine, that is the core activity of our profession. Next one. Also, along with this, sometimes, not on a regular basis, we carry out brown bag session. Again, the idea of brown bag session I got from other countries. So brown bag session means people have, many a times leftover medicines at home. They don't know what to do with it. They don't even remember the use because they have got it only for certain ailments occasionally. So we tell the people, whatever queries you have regarding medicines, you bring the medicines with you and we will answer your queries. So we do it usually for other campus colleges or nearby community, and students along with the teachers help out, or sometimes the practicing pharmacist is there who is also like usually our ex-student. He will be there and then we carry out these brown bag sessions. And I'll tell you, this has huge response and students also feel extremely satisfied and excited that they're doing something directly for the community. Next one. Another type of activity which we started, I don't remember when, but I think 2008-9, that is service learning. Service learning is a form of experiential education in which the students engage in activities that address human and community needs together with the structured opportunities intentionally designed to promote the student learning and the development. Because what I realized and what I thought is just teaching them pharmacy or related things is not enough. Let them get enough exposure of the underprivileged sectors from the society, from the other people, from other sectors, and then let them realize what could be their role as a human being, as a pharmacist. Next one. So service learning, since we do not have NSS, etc. Formally, we had to do it separately. Otherwise, those colleges which have NSS units, usually they carry it out. But that is by a small group of students. We carry it out here for all the students. So service learning, these are the structure activities outside the class to meet the community need. So what we usually do is next slide. Group of students are they only find out where they want to do and do the service for at least 1 day or 2 days. So they go to the orphanage, they go to the blind children's school, or they go to vruddhashram, that is old people's home. Just going there, talking to old people, spending time with old people has been a matter of enormous satisfaction for both the parties. That is, we have got written letters and feedback from the Vruddhashram people that they felt very happy to receive, to have these youth with them for some time. And also students, when they come back after visiting, say, Mahilashram or old people's home or orphanages or blind people's school, or when they come back, they tell us that, see, we were always fighting or grumbling for small things in life, that I don't have this type of mobile, I don't have the bike. Now I know how much importance, how much lucky I am, fortunate I am to have what I have already. And because I have seen the people who are lacking so many things, who are underprivileged, and they are suffering so much. Compared to them, I'm in heaven. So students are given the feedback like this, that thanks for carrying out such activity, which gives us an exposure and which makes us realize the value of what we have. So to increase the social understanding, to understand the community needs, it is very important that such type of exposure is given to the students every year, for every batch, and let the students find out where they want to go. I mean, we cannot make any compulsion. Then we write a letter to that organization. We see that everything is okay, no, no problems, issues will come up, and then we should do it in a very controlled environment. But it is very important to carry out such type of community service, at least 1 or 2 activities per year for all students, maybe in a group. Yes. Next one. Okay, now again coming back to the college, small assignments which really help to increase the understanding and interest for the students. Now, for example, product handling assignment. What do we do here? We have a lot of empty cartons, empty strips, empty bottles. Students in pharmaceutics practical or pharmacognosy or pharmacology practical, we have a lot of time. Then we ask the students to study 5 products, say maybe just 5 products, read the label, write the content, see the expiry, what other instructions are given, is it schedule H, is it OTC, and student makes the notes in the rough practical book. So handling the product is very important. Reading the labels is very much important. This is again increasing the practical relevance of what we are teaching, because they can immediately correlate. Okay, we learned this drug in the pharmacology theory and this is the product here. So these type of small activities taking just half an hour, 1 hour are very much important. Next one. Home medicine list. This is like one activity which I usually give in first year itself. So after the first year joins the college, this is for B.Pharm, everyone. After they join the college, we give them orientation, initial lectures are over. Then we have to talk to them about what are medicines, how you are going to be a pharmacist, how the modern medicines are very much important, like they're so their chemicals, overuse, underuse could be a problem. All that is like given like a background, and then we have to tell them to make the list of medicines at their home. So what are the medicines, where are they kept, are they expired, unexpired, or expiry is also gone, the strip is cut, where is the storage done by their parents, how much quantity remaining, whether they know the use. Make the proper list and submit it. Then students realize that they have so many medicines at home kept here and there, no proper medicine boxes there, sometimes no storage is done properly. And then we teach them how to store the medicines, how to prepare the medicine box, and how to make the list of medicines. So then they go back and teach their family members also. So family members also feel, parents also feel, oh, my child is now in a pharmacy college and he is going to be a pharmacist, and so he's getting this knowledge. And also the medicine storage at their home improves, expired medicines are thrown. So this is one activity, home medicine list, which we do every year in the first few months after the students join the college. Next one. Library assignments. A very sad thing that our students don't read the newspapers. Our students, I mean, not on internet, not hard copy. and they don't read anything. They just go to the library just to complete their manuals, their journals, or just to copy each other's notes. So overall, that is the scenario. I mean, maybe 10 to 20% of the students read, but otherwise they don't read even anything apart from their notes. So library assignments is a must. So we have to ask the students to go to the library, pick up any periodical, maybe Pharma Times, whatever, Science Reporter, Reader's Digest, जो भी है, and choose any article, read it, write summary in your own words, submit it in some manual or journal. Unless we ask them to submit it, there is no, seriousness. So, and then we, give some marks for it somewhere. Then only they become serious, because self-motivated students are very few. Unless such incentive is there, nobody will do it. So, and then ask them to submit, and also if possible, ask them to talk about it during the practicals. So they present what they have read. So at least one article they have to read and some present this. Also, very small assignments like ask the students, chalo, read Pharma Times, 10 issues you read Pharma Times, 10 issues just browse through and see what machines are advertised. Some incubators, some tablet punching machines, list out all of that. It is such a great, exposure to the students ki industry mein kaun se machines lagte hain. What are the machines? What are the companies which are making it? Just list it out, the company name, the product name, and its use. That itself changes the outlook of the students. They start visualizing, they start becoming familiar with so many things. So these are like small assignments which are really very, very helpful, is our experience. Next one. Next. Pharmacology. Give one drug name to the student and they have to find out all the information, also the brand names, prices, everything. They can also do the survey by visiting the drugstores or now through online also. So market surveys also are very helpful. Next one. Displays have to be created. We are government-aided college, not much, funding, etc. So this is not very sophisticated or posh. But patient information leaflets collected from different countries by me or from internet, we create its displays, as well as regarding diabetes, hypertension. All these, like whatever useful material is there, it has to be arranged nicely to create an atmosphere. So wherever students go in any corridor, they can see these good things. At least they feel like reading, and that is helpful. Next one. Many other activities like participation of students in surveys, as I said, then we always carry out the educational activities, except this COVID year. I'm sure we all take the students to industry, nearby hospitals, etc. So all these things definitely help. Along with that, one activity for the teachers, that is journal club activity. I'm sure some of the colleges follow it. So journal club activity, teachers have to read and teachers have to present a new topic, or if they have visited some conference, they can present what they have learned over there. Because over a period of time, I have seen that teachers are also, some teachers, not all, lose interest or lose motivation and of updating the knowledge. Going in comfort zone is really very, very a sad thing. So we cannot be in the comfort zone. Pharmacy is changing every day. Pharmacy is very dynamic field, very lively, very interesting. And COVID has, you have seen how the COVID year, I mean, how many drugs are repurposed, then scrapped down, and so many things. So we need to keep on updating our knowledge through different ways. And journal club activity is one opportunity where we do it compulsorily, whether we like it or don't like it. So we do it once, and then other teachers, when they present our knowledge, is immediately updated. Next one. So also continuing with the small assignments or teaching approach. Like suppose if we are teaching pharmacology, then we are teaching them therapeutic category, etc. So let's go beyond little the textbook thing and teach them what are the patient instructions. If we are teaching NSAID, why it should be taken after food? What is the importance of not taking it before food? Or how it can increase blood pressure? So small things added, that approach is there, then that definitely helps. Next one. If you're teaching like, therapeutic displays have to be created. I mean, therapeutic display, what I mean here is say hypnotics. Then the empty cartons of hypnotic tablets, different brands that can be kept here, antibiotics. So usually we have herbal displays or a dosage form display. Here we have to also create each therapeutic category and its examples, marketed products. So that is again giving good exposure to the students. Next one. If we are teaching, like say pharmaceutics, it would be really helpful. We teach them about polymers, tableting process, all ingredients used, technology part teach them. But if we go one step beyond, even if it is not written in the syllabus, and if we tell them what is the importance of entry coated tablet, why it should be taken, how it should be taken, should it be broken or not, if it is broken into two parts or crushed by a geriatric patient, what will happen. So that is really very, very helpful. It immediately creates more interest in the minds of the students than learning dry technology part. So why that entry coating, why that the SR tablets, sustained release tablets, why they should not be broken. So every time we teach any subject at any level, diploma, B Pharm, Pharm D, we have to bring patient in front of the student's mind. So like if I'm teaching a chewable tablet, I'll tell the student, see, the patient has to take an antacid tablet. How should you take? It's chewable, so it should not be swallowed with whole glass of water. First, it has to be chewed and then taken. Something like that. So bring patient in every conversation. Bring patient in every discussion. So student is oriented perfectly that I'm going to be a pharmacist, whether I go in industry, clinical trials, hospital, community, I'm pharmacist in the heart. So I should be knowing all this. These are basics. So, and that orientation, because this is again, as I tell you, this is not a rocket science at all. These are small basic things which sometimes we ignore because that approach was missing in our education. Next one. So if pharmacognosy is all about TS and extractions and whatnot, that is okay, that is important and required. But also we can ask the students to study the products in the market, study the label, basically list out the things in each product, how many ingredients are there, is there an expiry, on all these things. You can think much better and can give them better assignments. But these type of assignments and having empty cartons, etc., in the lab itself is very, very important for the students' exposure. Next one. If we are teaching laws become sometimes jurisprudence kind of subject or pharmacy laws, whatever is the title. It becomes sometimes very tough, challenging for the students to read the law, mug it up, and remember for the exam. Yes, but student has to do it. That is important. But then if we want to make them understand it better and create more interest, we can also discuss different cases which are coming in the media every day. FDA took actions against this, pharmacist was penalized, whatever. Next slide. So that I have seen, that is my experience, even though I don't teach pharmacy laws or jurisprudence. Next slide. But in whatever subject I'm teaching, I'll discuss about, suppose if this news comes in Times of India about the FDA's actions against a chemist for whatever reason, maybe for dispensing a Sala drug, wrong dose, or pharmacist was not present. Let's discuss about it. 5 or 10 minutes it takes. And then it becomes so interesting for the students when they learn about D&C Act or Pharmacy Act. So discussing the real life cases is very important now. It is much easier because of internet availability and also online lectures. We can always share these things. Next one. If we are teaching biochemistry and clinical pathology, we have to have the lab reports in our laboratory. I mean, the file of laboratory reports of patient's name always masked, and then they have to handle these reports. They have to become familiar with these reports, how to read it, how to interpret it. This is possible, I think, in Pharm D, but in B Pharm and D Pharm, it is pretty much ignored, and the subject is learned for the sake of learning for the exam. But that should not be the goal. I mean, our goal is to make the competent pharmacist who has perfect understanding of everything. So pathology lab report file is very important, and let the students during the practicals read it, go through it, give some assignment to it, ask the student, if a family member has undergone some test, get the reports. Always patient's privacy is important. So mask the name, photocopy it, and use it. So that really helps, and that is connected to day-to-day life. So students also feel very interested. Next one. Now, this year, because of COVID, we could not, of course, meet the students in the college. So many online assignments were given. One of the assignment which I will recommend to you, you might be already doing it or you might be doing many more than this. One activity definitely you ask the students to do is attend some virtual courses, not the webinars, self-paced courses from WHO or from Pan American Health Organization. They have courses like for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and student can do at any time whenever they want. So like this is accurate automated blood pressure measurement course. How much time it took for the student? 1 hour. So this year I told all the students to do at least 5 courses. Based on that, I gave them internal marks and also some other assignments like home medicine list was done and submitted online. But these are certain things our teachers also should do as many courses as possible. Means attending webinar is one thing, but doing these courses, getting certificate is also important. Student also felt so great that they got the certificate from US, from PAHO, or they did WHO course on antimicrobial resistance, 4 hours time course. So they feel great, and I also suggested some Coursera courses, etc. Some of the students did, not all, but all students did at least these type of courses. And this is like online assignment which I definitely give to our students, whether they are in diploma or VPharm or PharmD. Next one. Also, I want to bring to your attention, go to FIP website and FIP webinars, the digital events which are happening. They're free of charge for everyone. And since last year, due to COVID, FIP immediately adopted to the digital mode. And every week, 3 to 4 webinars are there on various topics, totally diversified, and you can pick up whichever you want. Free registration is there, and all the webinars which already have happened, they are on FIP website. So pick it up. Some of the events, I mean, some of the webinar links, you can share it with your students and then discuss in the following lecture, online lecture, whatever they felt, their feedback, whatever way. But these are like, I highly recommend these webinars to you, and from the speakers from all around the globe are there. And this will be very, very useful in our daily teaching also. Next one. Many other websites, you might be watching the website of American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy or IPSF, IPA, Royal Pharmaceutical Society. The patient counseling videos from American Pharmacist Association website are also excellent. That I have not listed, but you can have it. Every year they have a competition, patient counseling competition, and some of the videos they upload on their website. Next one. Next one. So just to conclude, I think the students say, tell me and I will forget. That is passive learning. Show me and I may remember, but involve me and I will definitely understand. So we need to engrave this in our mind. Tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I may remember. Involve me and I'll understand. So we have to revolve, I mean, our thoughts have to revolve around this, and create some assignments or create some activities, develop some activities which will be very helpful to the students for better understanding and to finally make them competent pharmacists. So orientation and teaching approach is very important. I don't think syllabus or curriculum, I mean, it is important, but then we can always, whatever syllabus we have, like, ER 1991, Diploma in Pharmacy syllabus is changing now in 2021. So 30 years old it is. So people always used to criticize. Of course, I also did not like it. I also used to say that is too old. But at our level, whatever we can do, we should do. So we never, I was never regretting that the syllabus is so old. Whatever I can do, I was doing. So that should be our approach, make the best out of what we have and then try for the change. So orientation and teaching approach is very important. Many of such experiments should be done on a regular basis. They should be well integrated in the curriculum. And teacher, of course, for all these things, going something beyond, which is not asked by the principal or not asked by the system, your regular system is not asked. To do these things, teacher has to be self-motivated. I would say teacher should love the pharmacy profession. Teacher should be proud of the profession, professionally interested, active, and passionate to transform the incoming raw students into the competent future pharmacist. Actually, when we say that we are transforming the students, we ourselves are also getting transformed. We ourselves are also getting developed because of all these different activities and inputs which I get from the student. I came to know so many things. I learn each year from students when they tell me, when we discuss these things. So it is great win-win situation for the students and for the teachers. So not all classrooms have four walls, and we should go beyond classrooms and touch the lives of our students in all different possible ways. Thank you very much for your patient listening.